We just got the release of the updated Psion in Unearthed Arcana, and I posted a video about the main class yesterday. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. But in this video, we're going to go over all of the changes that were made to the subclasses. There's a lot to talk about, so let's not waste any time. Oh, and subscribe to help me reach 20k if you haven't already. Thanks. Our first subclass is the Metamorph, which has the ability to adjust and reshape its own body using its psionic powers on itself to perform some pretty grisly stuff. Our first feature at level 3 are Metamorph Spells. The list has not changed since the last time. We still get Alter Self, Cure Wounds, Inflict Wounds, Lesser Restoration, Aura of Vitality, Haste, Polymorph, Stone Skin, Contagion, and Mass Cure Wounds. There are quite a few Necromancy and Transmutation spells on this list, which has good synergy with the Biofeedback Psionic Discipline. This is convenient since the subclass is clearly aimed at being mostly a frontline combatant, so having some way to potentially consistently gain temporary hit points is a nice thing to have. Next up, and also at level 3, we have Organic Weapons. This has not substantially changed since the previous version. Bone Blade still deals 1d8 piercing damage on a hit and provides advantage on the roll if there is at least one ally within 5 feet and the ally isn't also incapacitated. Flesh Maul still deals 1d10 bludgeoning damage and causes the target to have disadvantage on its next strength or constitution saving throw that it makes before the start of its next turn. And finally, Viscera Launcher still deals 1d6 acid damage with a range of 30-90 and allows us once per turn when we hit with an attack to deal an extra 1d6 acid damage. The only thing that's really changed here is that the limb retains its form until we use the magic action to change it or when we fall unconscious. Otherwise, it's basically the same feature. They did also note that there will be magic items created to support this weapon in a future book if the class is published, which I think is extremely likely at this point, given that they have committed to 2 UAs with it now. And finally, also at level 3, we get Mutable Form, which used to be Extend Limbs, but also used to be the name of the level 10 feature that was called Mutable Form. They've clearly had some fun moving stuff around. Anyway, this works exactly the same as it used to. As a bonus action, we can spend an energy die to extend our limbs for 1 minute, providing us with an increased reach by 5 feet, movement speed increase of 5 feet as well, and when we cast a spell with a casting time of 1 action that has a range of touch, we can extend that range to 10 feet. This is probably most useful with things like Mass Cure Wounds. The only difference is that now we also gain temporary hit points equal to the number rolled plus our intelligence modifier. One of the biggest complaints about the Metamorph that I and pretty much everyone else had was that it didn't feel particularly sturdy considering its placement in a typical encounter, and given the fact that it only has a d6 for its hit die and no armor proficiencies to speak of. So rather than address any of that, they instead seemingly chose to just throw temporary hit points at it as frequently as possible. And I mean, that is a choice. There's just only so much that temps can do considering that they don't stack. Next at level 6, we still get extra attack, and it also has not changed and remains the same as the Bladesinger extra attack in that it allows us to use a cantrip with a casting time of 1 action in place of one of the attacks if we choose to. This can be useful if we wanted to use something like Blade Ward or Telekinetic Fling. At level 6, we have a new feature, Flesh Weaver, which replaces the old, kinda bad Quicken Healing feature. Flesh Weaver allows us, when we use Mutable Form to extend our limbs, to spend an additional energy die to gain 2 benefits. Organic Defense grants us a +2 to our AC, and Empowered Healing makes it so that when we cast a spell with a spell slot that restores hit points to 1 or more creatures, to expend another energy die, roll it, and add the number rolled to the number of hit points that are regained. It takes quite a bit to get here, but that +2 AC is a reasonable bonus to get and is definitely critical for this class. This honestly kind of feels like a band-aid feature, and it arrives a bit late, and it isn't cheap or permanent. Presumably, you would want to activate this nearly every combat, which requires 2 energy dice. At level 6, you only have 6, so that's 1/3 of your maximum capacity gone just to get the +2 AC. And remember that you need to activate Mutable Form first, you can't just use Flesh Weaver on its own. Then, if you wanted to use Empowered Healing, you needed to spend another energy die. It's expensive. That's half your energy dice gone, and you haven't really done anything cool except help yourself stay alive and plug some holes in the subclass design. This feature makes it clear that probably the most viable way to actually be survivable with this subclass is to multiclass to be able to grab some other armor proficiencies and other defenses. I really do not think you should have to use an additional energy die. I believe that it should just be tacked on when you use the Mutable Form feature. Kind of like what we're going to see with our next feature. At level 10, Improved Mutable Form increases the duration of Mutable Form to 10 minutes from 1 minute. On top of that, when we use the feature, we get some additional perks that thankfully do not cost us any additional energy dice to use, though we can only choose one of them. We can gain resistance to 1 of Acid, Bludgeoning, Cold Fire, Lightning, Piercing, Poison, Slashing, or Thunder damage. or we can choose Superior Stride, which allows us to dash as a bonus action and gives us a climb and swim speed equal to our speed, provided that we are not wearing any armor. And finally, Unnatural Flexibility gives us a +1 to our AC, and we can move through any space as narrow as 1 inch, and can spend 5 feet of movement to escape from non-magical restraints or to end the grappled condition. I'll note that this used to provide +2 AC in the prior version, but also the AC bonus from Fleshweaver did not exist before. All of these are generally fine, just the trend I'm noticing here is that the bulk of our features as a Metamorph aren't really letting us do cool things, so much as they are just focused on helping us not die. Whether it's some bonus AC, additional movement, more healing, or resistance, it's like they just gave us our weapons and said, okay, now how do we keep you from dying? And they just went all in on that. Our final feature at level 14 is Life Bending Weapons. This allows us, when we hit a target with our organic weapons, to roll 1 energy die. The target takes extra necrotic damage equal to the roll, and that roll does not actually consume one of our dice. I always find it amusing with features like this that let us do stuff for free when we have an abundance of resources to spend, but then charge us for basic functionality when we don't have much. Maybe there's a metaphor in here somewhere. In all seriousness, I do understand that it is an effort to preserve balance, but sometimes I feel like they err a bit too hard on that to its own detriment, when the balance that they are preserving is something underpowered. Anyway, in addition to that, we can actually opt to spend one of our energy dice on the hit to still deal that bonus necrotic damage, but then also choose any creatures within 30 feet of ourselves and have them regain hit points equal to the number rolled plus our intelligence modifier, and we can only do that once per turn. This feature's fine. A bit of a bonus damage and some nice extra healing is not too bad at all. Overall, the Metamorph is improved from the previous version, and it is super cool in theory. It just feels like so many of the features are focused on just keeping us alive, which, to be clear, is not inherently bad. Defensive features are great, but they certainly aren't exciting, and they don't really feel like they're fitting the identity of this subclass in particular. The next subclass is the Psywarper. Just kidding, apparently it scored so well that they left it out of the playtest this time, so there is nothing to look at. This does lend credence to the notion that they are almost certainly committing to publishing the Psion at this point. Our actual next subclass is the Psykinetic. These Psions can bend and shape their abilities like a malleable force. They can create barriers for defense or strike down their foes. At level 3, we get our first feature, Psykinetic Spells. This list is again the same as it was before, so it gives us Cloud of Daggers, Levitate, Shield, Thunderwave, Slow, Telekinetic Crush, Odaluk's Resilient Sphere, Stone Shape, Telekinesis, and Wall of Force. This is an overall very strong list. I don't really have any complaints about it. It's good. Also at level 3, we get stronger Telekinesis, which makes it so that when we cast Mage Hand, the range increases by 30 feet, and the hand can carry up to 20 pounds. I love Mage Hand. I think it's one of the most fun and versatile spells in the game, and it's almost always relevant regardless of level. So I really like this feature. It's nothing earth-shattering, it just makes a great spell that much better. Plus, it's invisible from our base Psion features, so that's pretty sweet. And finally, again at level 3, we also get another feature, Telekinetic Techniques. This gives the Psykinetic some additional power and control over their Telekinetic Propel power from the base class. This makes it so that when we use Telekinetic Propel and opt to roll for it and not use the base 5 feet, we can roll a d4 and use the number rolled multiplied by 5 to determine how far the creature is pulled or pushed. And doing so does not cause us to consume an energy dice. This is so cool. Yes, we are losing a bit of our maximum potential, going down to 20 feet from 30 and increasing the odds at low rolling the 1, but at least it's free all around. This is a trade-off that I am happy to take, but it doesn't stop there. In addition, if the target fails their save, we can opt to boost their speed by 10 feet, make it so that they can't make an opportunity attack until the start of their next turn, or have them take force damage equal to the number rolled. I presume the d4 counts as an energy dice for the purpose of this feature. This isn't 100% clear, but I do feel like it kind of has to. This part of the feature hasn't changed since the last version, and I still think it's awesome. I especially like the boost option, as you can really help an ally get a move on, since they can just opt to fail the save. Next at level 6, Empowered Attack Mode has been replaced with Destructive Trance. The way this works is that at the start of our turn, we can opt to enter a destructive state and expend an energy die. Then, for the next 10 minutes, we gain a fly speed of 20 feet, we can hover, and when we cast a Psion spell that expends a spell slot, we can roll our energy die and add that number rolled to the damage roll of that spell. Notably, that roll does not count as expending the energy die. When I first read this feature, I didn't really get it. I wasn't sure what I was missing. I think I might have just not read the last sentence. But after a couple reads, I realized that this is just a very good feature. 1 energy die for a fly speed for 10 minutes, and the ability to buff the damage on any Psion spell that we cast by an amount equal to the energy die that is rolled is quite good, especially since we don't need to keep spending dice. We just need to spend the 1 to activate our destructive trance, and then every damage roll bonus does not expend an additional die. But also, this scales with us as we level up. This is such a good, consistent feature that provides a nice bonus for very, very little investment. And it continues to get better since we still have another level 6 feature, Rebounding Field. This works pretty much the same as it did before with a couple tweaks. When we cast Shield in response to being hit with an attack roll and cause the attack to miss, we can spend 1 energy die to turn the attack back at the attacker. This requires them to make a dexterity saving throw, failing which the attacker takes force damage equal to a roll of the energy die plus our intelligence modifier. On a successful save, they take half damage. Regardless of whether or not they save, we then gain temporary hit points equal to the damage that was dealt. The old version of this allowed for 2 dice to be rolled, but only gave temps if they failed to save. I think this is the version that I would take every time. Guaranteed value always feels good. At level 10, we get Enhanced Telekinetic Crush, which lets us, when we cast Telekinetic Crush, to expend 1 energy die to modify the spell so that regardless of whether or not a creature fails its save, their speed is halved until the start of our next turn. Plus, we can roll the die and increase the damage by an amount equal to the number rolled. I mean, like I just said, guaranteed value is always nice, and it just makes an already pretty reasonable spell even better with reduced movement speed and additional damage. Again, it's just good. Finally, at level 14, we have our capstone, Heightened Telekinesis. This allows us to cast Telekinesis without expending a spell slot by instead spending 4 energy dice. When we do this, we make it so that it doesn't require concentration, the duration becomes 1 minute, and we can target gargantuan creatures. This is again just a great boost over the previous version, which required both the spell slot and the energy dice to be spent. I will note again that the lowest strength save modifier for any gargantuan creature in the 2024 Monster Manual is a +7, so I mean, it's probably still not going to go all that well, but at least you could in theory use it on an ancient dragon or a kraken with their ludicrous +17 strength save mod. Overall, the Psykinetic is very strong. It feels like it was designed by a completely different set of people than who designed the Metamorph. Here, the intent and the execution feel so in sync and well executed. They know what they wanted to do, and they did it. They weren't afraid to make features affordable and push the power up to suit the theme, and it works so well. And finally, our last subclass is a Telepath. This one made me almost actually angry last time. It just made no sense. The whole design of the thing was completely out of whack with features that felt intentionally nerfed so others can shine. It was a total mess. I absolutely hated it, and now they're back with another go. So let's take a look. First up at level 3, we have our Telepath Spells, and we actually have a few changes this time. Now we get Bane, Detect Thoughts, Mind Spike, Counterspell, Slow, Compulsion, Confusion, Modify Memory, and Yolanda's Regal Presence. This means that Speak with Plants and Awaken, the exact 2 spells that I complained about last time, have been dropped and replaced with Slow and Regal Presence, which was an excellent call. This is a great spell list now, maybe even better than what we had with the Psykinetic. Also at level 3, we get Mind Infiltrator. This works the same as it did before, except now it's cheaper. Now it just costs 1 energy die when we cast Detect Thoughts to make it not require any spell components or concentration, and when we probe using the Read Thoughts effect, the target does not know that we were reading their mind if it fails its wisdom saving throw against the spell. This was a reasonable feature before and is obviously even better now since it's exactly the same but for half the price. Spells like Detect Thoughts tend to be a little bit DM and campaign dependent. It is a personal favorite of mine, but I know that it doesn't always go down well, so it's hard to truly evaluate. Lastly, at level 3, we get Telekinetic Distraction. This makes it so that when a creature that we can see within the range of our telepathy, so 30 feet, hits with an attack roll, we can use our reaction to roll an energy die and subtract the number rolled from the attack roll. The die is only expended if it ends up making the target miss the attack. This is a cool feature and super flavorful, allowing us to play in our target's mind and distract them to potentially miss an attack. It's reminiscent of the version of Psionic Backlash from the previous UA, except that it works on other creatures and not just ourselves. I'll have a bit more to say about this later though. Moving on, at level 6 we get Bulwark Mind. This is similar to the Destructive Trance ability from the Psykinetic, just more defensive in nature. It allows us at the start of our turn to spend 1 energy die to enter a fortified state for 10 minutes. During that time, we gain resistance to psychic damage, and whenever we need to make an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throw, we can add a roll of our energy dice to the bonus to the save. The roll does not expend the die either. This is another very strong defensive option. People love Mage Slayer, and it's kind of like that, except obviously there is a roll involved and not just an auto success. But it works for 10 minutes, so I mean, there is that. This is a strong feature. It's not really doing anything per se, it's very passive, but again, that's not necessarily a bad thing at all, especially since we get another feature at level 6, Potent Thoughts. This increases the range of our telepathy to 60 feet, which does actually buff Telepathic Distraction. Though we do still need to be able to see the target, 60 feet is a pretty significant distance to be able to use that feature. On top of that, it allows us to add our intelligence modifier to the damage rolled for any of our Psion cantrips, of which we only have Mind Sliver, Telekinetic Fling, and True Strike. So it's not a massive boost by any stretch, but it is another passive boost. It doesn't hurt, I'm not upset about it. At level 10, we get Telepathic Bolstering. This makes it so that when a creature within our range of our telepathy, so now 60 feet, fails an ability check or misses with an attack roll, we can use our reaction to expend one energy die. Roll it and add the number rolled to the failed check or attack roll. The die is only expended if the check ends up succeeding or the attack ends up hitting. This is another nice buff to be used on our party and does have some nice application outside of combat too. Now, the thing is that it does get a bit more complicated during combat. We now have two reactions that trigger in very similar ways. One when an enemy hits and another when an ally misses. You only get one reaction per round, and this consumes two separate features. Design-wise, I do wish that they were just part of the same feature since they are so similar, and that would also open up space for something new here at level 10. But since they didn't, you just kind of get torn between which one of these two features that you want to use, and you also feel like you need to use one of them, but they will also get pretty expensive pretty quickly. I'm a bit conflicted on this. The costs here are a bit less egregious than the Metamorph, but it's also less forgiving than the Psykinetic. I think it's one that I would really need to play for a bit to get a good feeling for it. My gut tells me that you're going to feel stretched really thin and like you always should have used the other one, but maybe I'm wrong. And finally, at level 14, we have our capstone, Scramble Minds. This lets us cast Confusion without a spell slot by expending 4 energy dice. Again, when we do this, we can modify the spell so that the spell has a 30-foot radius, which is crazy, and we can choose one creature within the spell's area to automatically succeed on the saving throw. This gives us some nice protection for our allies who may be nearby. In addition, when a creature under the effect of the spell starts their turn, we get to choose what they do from the table rather than rolling on it. Confusion is already a great spell, and this makes it so much better. One point that I do want to make is that I don't think the note about choosing one target to automatically succeed on their save actually matters at all. Since we get to choose their behavior from the table, it doesn't really matter if we hit our entire party and they fail, since we can just say that they get to choose their behavior. So, I mean, that's a little weird. Otherwise, this is an incredibly good capstone. The Telepath is massively improved. It probably gets the award for most improved. No, we still aren't getting 1 mile of telepathy like the Soul Knife, but I do feel like the subclass is in much better shape than it was previously. Telepathic Distraction and Telepathic Bolstering do feel like they are competing with each other a bit too much, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with the subclass. So those are the subclasses of the Psion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, check out some of my other videos, but otherwise, take care.